Hey, hey, can people hear me?
Yes.
That was my way of getting
Yes.
someone to unmute. Thank you.
No, no worries.
I hope
I'm gonna
everyone's
mute
doing
'cause
all
I have
right.
construction going on. Yeah, and I got construction. I'm gonna mute myself, but I'm here.
All good. And you all can, if you want to, you can show face. If you're like, nah, that's not what I'm doing today, that's okay. Again, we learned all sorts of things during the pandemic, and one of them is not to demand that people turn their cameras on, especially if they are at home. Okay, so that can be an inequitable practice in and of itself. But if you would like to show face, I love to see faces. If you would like to put anything in the chat, just to see how you're doing, hear how everyone's feeling, that would be awesome. All right. So I'm glad you were here. Oh, thank you. So I'm getting some personal notes. So thank you. Thank you all. So awesome. So I shared with you all during my keynote about one of the activities that I created called Solve in Time. And that is what we're going to dive into during our time here. So if you're like, what is this design thinking activity? That's what we're going to jump into. But I'm going to let you know what my aim is. My aim is that you would be inspired and equipped to be able to utilize this tool yourself. So if you go to solveintime.com, and I will make sure that that is put in the chat as well. If you go to solveintime.com, all of my resources are there. There are some premium cards, but there's also free to download cards. And the free to download Solve in Time cards is also where you get the SOS card. I should have mentioned that during the keynote. So if you're like, all I care about are those SOS cards because I do small group activities, there you go. They are free for you to have access to and to enjoy. All righty. I say we dive into it, because I think the best way to learn about something is to do something. So let's do something. I'm going to share my screen, at least I'm going to hope to. And I'm also hoping that you can still hear me. And this is a tech check. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. We're still doing good. All right. I'm feeling good about life. So Solve in Time. I mentioned before earlier the 4 C's in education. I'm big on the 4 C's, mainly because they've kind of become more universal. They're sort of ubiquitous depending on whatever district you go to, wherever you are across the country. Most educators know about the 4 C's in some way, shape, or form, formerly known as the 4 C's in 21st century learning. Anyway, that's a whole nother story, but nonetheless, just to let you know, what I ask of all of you as we dive into what we're about to do is to actually commit to these 4 C's. Commit to them. So the very first thing I'm going to ask, even before you know what we're all going to do, is an upfront agreement. I'm asking that you would critically think about your own opinions compared to the research and the experiences of others. All right. Next thing, I'm going to ask that we together collaborate by seeking to understand and incorporate the voices and talents of others. All right. Next, going to ask that we communicate by listening intently and sharing with awareness of verbal and nonverbal language. And lastly, going to ask that you feel free to creatively share your ideas in bold, non-traditional ways. Let me know if you can hear me and if you agree with those by just popping in the chat. If you agree with these commitments, pop in the chat. Yes. So let me know if you are all with us. Excellent. And also letting you know that I'm seeing all of the chat messages direct to me. So I am seeing all of your commitments and I'm excited. I use that word a lot, but it's for real, for real. I'm easily excitable, especially when I'm around other educators. And I have a lot to learn from you. So let's do this together. Okay, so this design thinking process, and I didn't dive too deep in this in my keynote, but there are several models of design thinking. You saw at least a few of them, right? If you were to Google search design thinking models, you will recognize that there are several, right? There are two that are really popular in education, but there are several. Lots of designers use lots of different models, and this is a model that I co-designed with students and teachers. So here's what we're going to be diving into. So first and foremost, we are going to identify and summarize a real and relevant problem. Just like I told you would do with my content in the classroom, whatever we do, we got to make it real. We got to make it relevant. Probably unstated here, we want to specify what that is. So we might be dealing with a theme, but how do we make it really personal in specifying what problem are we solving? And shout out, I see that someone put in the chat, I think Ralph put in the chat, the five C's when you add a commitment. I love that. Okay. The next thing we are going to do, and by the way, I could just be showing that these are all cards in Solve in Time. So these are Solve in Time cards, but now we're going to talk about research, and you research by utilizing research. If there were only a device or a website we can use for such things. Oh yeah, Google, we can Google, and personal knowledge. So utilize your personal knowledge, but just not exclusively. The next step in this design thinking process is to seek to understand, and seek to understand not just cognitively, but emotionally. And so that looks like engaging empathy and compassion. All right. The fourth step is to solve. And in your solve stage, you're actually now starting to just shift your focus from what was seeking to understand the problem, right, and its implications, to now considering, oh, what might you need in order to solve it? So you go from divergence to now we are converging with actual problem solving. And lastly, and the fun part, is sharing out your solution in creative ways. So utilizing creativity and communication. All right, so those are the 5 steps. And if you're asking yourself, well, what is that last missing piece? You've already been in my keynote, so you know what's coming, and it's the SOS card. So SOS, reminder, is going to ask that you consider asking 3 before asking me. All right. It's a one-time use card. I love the use of this card. It has absolutely transformed my teaching and learning by creating small groups and then gamifying the ask 3 before me. Okay. That being said, I am curious if there are any questions, and it's easier to maybe unmute if you want to say it out loud so everyone can hear it, because I believe you may be limited in the chat to only chatting to me directly. But if there are any questions, either by unmuting or by putting in the chat, what you got for me before we dive in and do?
Hi, my name is Amelia.
Hi, Amelia.
Good afternoon, good morning. I would really like to know just right off the bat if I'll be able to use these cards.
Yes.
If they're accessible to me to use with students.
Yes, they are. And so if you go to solveintime.com, you will see the cards If you go scroll down to the bottom, you can see the free to download cards there. And
Thank
then
you.
I see, yes, thank you, Amelia, for asking that. I see another question, would the SOS card work with elementary students who need more help? And the answer is absolutely. So all of the cards that we're going to explore and dive into today, know that they are written on a second grade level. So that's intentional. Second grade seems to be a good starting spot for if you are working with youngers, right? There might be some elevated language that you are teaching them, but not necessarily language that has huge barriers. And then, second grade and above, typically they're able to understand the words, and then you then may just explain some of the concepts a little bit more. But I used SOS card with third graders in the classroom that I was teaching. All right, and I feel like a setup question just hit the chat, and it asks, like, what type of problems will the students be solving? Do they have right, wrong answers, or are they divergent solutions? So maybe you've got from me, from my keynote, I'm all about the divergent solutions. But the big thing is that if they're solving real problems, they're not coming up with like these hypothetical things because they're not dealing with a hypothetical problem, right? They're dealing with real problems. So we're asking for real solutions. And those could very much be as imaginative as you want them to be. So what we're going to do today, again, it feels like a setup. I would love to be able to expose you to another free add-on, free to download add-on from my Solve on Time cards, and it's the Civil Rights Edition. So Civil Rights Edition is going to allow us to explore real and relevant problems, such as police brutality, educational inequity, voter suppression. By the way, I am letting you know that this add-on pack, this particular add-on pack, is part of the equity expansion pack, which is designed for 7th grade and up. So if you're like, you said that these were 2nd grade and older, now you're saying voter suppression, they don't know how to spell suppression. I know that part. The basic cards are on 2nd grade level. Housing inequity, criminal justice system, censorship. So there are various ways you can do this. The way that I typically do this is I have students in small groups. Those small groups are broken in teams of 4, maybe sometimes 5, depending on the class size. And each group has their own set of cards, and I don't even know what they have. So I've not pre-assigned this group to be the police brutality group. But if that's what you chose, you would like to do, you can, right? So I don't even know which problem each group is going to solve. And then here's the really interesting thing. I don't even know which questions they're going to get based on whatever group they are part of. I could have been better set up to show you this, but each and every card has a different set of questions. So for instance, research, right? They're all going to be who, what, when, where, why, or how questions. So this is a why question. This is a where question. This is a when question. This is a what question. And then here's a who question. All right, I'm going to shuffle those back up because we're going to do this activity together. And I am literally going to just pull from the deck. And so as a whole group, you will be exposed to what this activity is and literally have an opportunity to quote play it. But know that the way it's normally run is small groups. We're not doing breakout groups. I would love to be able to have you all here for whole group to really help you understand this process so that you can then take it to your classrooms and do with it as you will. Now, notice I used language earlier of what I normally do. Just because I co-designed this activity doesn't mean that you have to do it this way. Because I don't know about you, but there's if you play any games in your house, there's always a such thing as house rules. So feel free to make your own house rules. But I want to let you know how this activity was originally designed and then how you can utilize it. So where you get these cards is another question that just got asked. And again, they are at solveintime.com. And you don't even have to download purchase the premium cards. You can, but if you want to download and print your own, they are available as well. So I normally have small groups have their cards out, placed face down so that they don't see what's behind them yet. Remember, we talked about the experience aspect. Even when the students have done this before, they know, number one, there's diversity of perspectives based on the different people that are in their group. So it's going to look different regardless. And the combination of cards and what question they may be asked, it may be completely different than the last time they were asked questions in this problem solving process, let alone the different problem that they may be solving. So literally there are endless possibilities just in what the process is, let alone what they produce. Yes, there are a ton of freebies at solveintime.com. If we have time to explore the website a little bit, I could show you more, but I just encourage you to dig around. These are all just resources that continue to create for my own use, and I share them with you. So here's a big one. Here's one that I want everyone to go ahead, if you have the ability to go ahead and download and get access to right now. This is a digital response sheet. And if you're like, you know what, nice try, I'm not using that, that's fine. I am again showing you what I normally have my students do. And this is a response sheet that can be responded to directly. So you'll notice that if you click on the link for template, it'll create your own copy and you can type directly, keep it in editor mode. You can type directly in these response sections. But also, if you wanted to, you could print this response sheet and students or adults could write directly on it. Of course, I'm a big fan of Post-it notes, so sometimes I veer away from using this and I use Post-it notes. Sometimes I use an interactive whiteboard, and I just put this big on an interactive whiteboard and have groups write on it. You can have lots of fun. All right, I'm gonna give you about 20 seconds for those of you who may want to go.solveintime.com/response, and it'll pull up a template that is free for you to utilize during this process. All righty, gonna move on. And so this is where in this presentation, I would normally modify this a little bit based on whatever problem topic we are aiming to solve for that particular day. So in this case, we are dealing with civil rights. Social studies teachers may find this particularly useful. But this is something you could modify, and I keep saying you can and you can because again, all of these resources are available on my website, including this presentation, this exact presentation that I am sharing with you. If you go to the resources and presentation or under the instructions, you have access to this. You can create your own copy and then you can facilitate it. So normally I would modify this and say, today we're solving problems related to civil rights, and we will have blank minutes total before sharing our solutions. So in this case, let's say we'll have 20 minutes before sharing our solutions, and we'll see what people come up with and or what questions come at the end. So I got a unable to download it. I am curious what you're unable to download. If you're looking for the free to print cards, you basically have to just sign in, put in your information for the freebie. And then once you add to your cart and submit that, you will get an email that will give you the resources for free. And if we need to do some troubleshooting at the end, we will do that, because I want to make sure you all have these resources. Okay, we start with the problem, right? You already knew that was coming, right? We're going to start with the problem. And in this case, I am going to replace what would normally be, one of these cards. Like in this case, the back of this card says simply, what is a problem you want to solve? It could be for another group. What is a problem that affects a stranger, right? It could be, what is a problem that affects a friend? What is a problem that affects a family member? So on and so forth. So there are various questions behind each of these cards, but we're getting thematic today. And so we are doing the Civil Rights Edition. And I can see Whitney's face first on my screen. Hey, Whitney. Okay, Whitney, would you mind being my volunteer? And if you unmute, I'll give you a free box of cards.
Oh my.
See, bribes work. Whitney, can you be my co-facilitator today?
I don't know. We'll see.
It'll be real easy, I promise. Real easy, I promise. Okay. And Whitney, do me a favor. Sorry for the stuff that's ringing. I have so much technology here. I don't even know what's ringing right now.
I didn't know if it was me.
I'm certain it's me. I just don't even know how to get to it right now. I have 14 tabs open. It's ridiculous. I have all these little mini windows. It's fun. Okay. So Whitney, do me a favor. Make sure you just send me your email and your address in the chat, and I'm going to send you a deck of cards for being my co-facilitator. Okay.
Alrighty. Thanks.
And by doing this, people can be mad at you and not me, because you are going to select our topic. Tell me when to stop.
That one.
This one. Ooh,
Yes.
Okay. So we're doing this as a large group. So everyone's going to be dealing with the same problem and going to get the same question prompts. All right. So the problem that we are dealing with is censorship. Now, each and every one of you individually can personalize this and can do something very specific related to. But Whitney has selected our problem, and it is censorship. And I'm going to give you 2 minutes to reflect on that. And you can write notes wherever you choose to write your notes. All righty. So I've given you 2 minutes just to process that. We're going to move quickly because you were gaining understanding of this process as well. Also let you know on the presentation, you can adjust the times on the slides, but we are doing what is called rapid prototyping. So I am curious just to see if anyone wants to share out maybe how you personalize this theme. What specific problem are you trying to solve related to censorship? You can share it out loud or put it in the chat. Oh, I see a raised hand from Mr. Lou.
Hey there, thanks. Yeah, I teach first grade, and I was thinking about what censorship looks like. It's often a lot of language and how kids kind of cancel each other out in language. So I was really considering how that would play out in a first grade classroom.
That's excellent. I'm so glad that you thought about it, not just the big topic, but how you thought about it from the mindset of your students in the grade level in which they're in. That's awesome. I see a few others in the chat, including yes for minor products such as movies, songs, TVs due to minorities' inability. That's Ms. Zhu. MM said interested if we should censor words, images students wear in their clothing. Miss, and I want to make sure I say it correctly. I believe it's Zato. Said banned books. Zito, thank you so much for correcting me. Ms. Zito, you want to say anything more about that with banned books?
Well, I was thinking like a lot of the time they ban books like based on like certain things that happen, but then a lot of the things that they ban happen to like minorities, and it's their actual experiences that they're actually saying that we shouldn't teach in class.
Yeah, what's the motive behind a lot of these banned books? We already know the answers, but we'll keep it moving for now. I see lots of other great ones that were chatted to me directly. I'll just give a shout out. Judy said getting students to understand that much of digital media is a form of censorship. That is an algorithm that decides what stories to send them, right? Algorithms of oppression is a topic that needs to be explored deeply. Christy has her hand raised. You mind sharing out?
Sure. Hopefully the construction noise. I teach high school, and as they're getting ready to have conversations to go off to college, and we know that there's a really big issue in colleges with the whole idea of safe spaces and language and people not wanting to or not being able to engage in a conversation freely because they might offend somebody. So where that line is and how where do my rights end and somebody else's begin when it comes to having a free and open dialogue on a topic, because there's been a lot of shutting down of conversations over that concept, and that's it's a big shift in how higher level education where that's gone.
Agreed.
And we should be preparing our high school kids to engage in those conversations and not be fearful of those conversations.
Love it. I love where all of your thinking is going. Okay, one more. Maria, you mind sharing out?
Yeah. I'm a TSA working on history and social studies for K-5, trying to get new curriculum finally for our K-5 people. Yes, I know it's 20 years old. Don't come at me. It's not coming this year. But I'm doing my best. And one of the things I'm having to do is there's a possible move to adopt a textbook, and textbooks censor certain people's history. Some histories are just not there, or they're minimized, or they're muted. And it's been super frustrating to look at that and have to say, like, here's the best thing I'm going to have to offer you. It's
so much there.
Yeah, so much institutionalized.
Yes. All right. I just want to get into a dialogue with all of you. But for the sake of this particular workshop, let's make sure that you all like get engaged in this process. So hold on to what you have specified so far. Okay, so that is the problem that you are aiming to solve. Now, it may take on new form as you continue through this process. You might say, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to change this up a little bit, and that is fine. But know that you were starting with that original problem, and every question that's now coming subsequent is related to that first step in the process, which was the problem identification. We good? All righty. Research. Whitney, you ready?
Ready.
This is about as low tech as it comes. Like, of course, this could be like on a spinner, but okay. Use your research skills and personal knowledge to answer this question, everyone. Location oriented. Where did the problem begin? Where did the problem begin? And I'm giving you 3 minutes because I also would love for you to do some actual research. All right. Oops. Timer start. Here we go. All righty. So give you all 3 minutes there. I'm not going to do Q&A after each one. I'm hoping that you found some very interesting information. Again, you have that response sheet that you could be responding to directly. If you were real quick at home with a printer, you could have even printed it out, or you could use whatever note-taking utility that you like. I do want to note that what I normally do is you all would be working in small groups and there would be an assigned note taker. And so this is normally not very silent There's a lot of talking and discussion happening, and there are people that are on devices doing some research and finding different things. And again, that research oftentimes reshapes or sometimes just narrows in what that specific problem is that you are aiming to solve. So no more about that, because we need to move on to understanding. So the understand card, the reminder is to use your empathy and compassion to answer whatever question that Whitney selects for us.
All right. Stop.
All right. Oh. When did you first notice the problem? So this is where with this sort of question, oftentimes I notice that students discuss a lot, but also end up like just writing a lot because there's a lot to be said. So if you want to use this as a reflection time, you can. But I'm going to give you all, I'm going to narrow this down to 2 minutes just to make sure we have time at the end for some discussion. Minutes. All righty. Wow, I'm also getting some personal messages that I just want you to know I'm kind of floored by. This is always a reflective exercise. So I find it very much when I do it just personally, it sends me down rabbit trails that I didn't even realize. Now imagine if you were working with others and you're listening to their perspective, you may go down a completely different pathway because you're getting someone else's direct thoughts. So here we go. Thank you, Whitney's back. Because we're going to now aim to solve.
My husband and kids, that's a lot of men.
Trust, I understand. I have 4 children myself. All right. We're going to, I just realized I was upside down. All right, we're going to aim to solve this problem right now. Actually, this is about considering what you may need in order to solve it. So use your imagination and critical thinking to answer this question.
All right, stop.
What did they win, Whitney? Oh, how might you solve it in a new way? All right, get your etch a sketches ready. How might you solve it in a new way? And this is limited time because you're just getting your thoughts together. And then I'm going to give you extended time for the last question. All right, so 2 more minutes. Time begins now. How might you solve it in a new way? All right. Here's what I know. I've been really, or I should say, we have been strongly engaging the left side of your brain. Now it's time to engage the right side of your brain. Quick time check. Okay. We're going to have some time to do this. This is my favorite part. This is my absolute favorite part. Because for your share, I want you to be able to prepare to do something super creative. And however you create that, that's on you. So if you consider in the classroom, maybe my students, we've utilized certain applications before. And so I know that they have knowledge of using certain apps. This is where things get cross-curricular because maybe students are familiar with different applications because they use them in someone else's class. This is also very much open to not using tech. If you choose to say, we're just going to do this completely analog, right? So technology, again, does not improve poor pedagogy, but technology can be used to enhance good pedagogy. So this is that opportunity. Whitney, you ready? I just feel like if you played poker, it'd be like, Whitney, hit me. Right. Did you stop here?
Yep.
All right. Here's what I'd love for you all to do. Create a story or a poem. A story or a poem. Okay, let me open it up since we're all doing this whole group, just to let you know, you can, if you like, you can choose from any of our cards, right? So you can create a song or a speech. You can, if you like, create a sketch or a poster. And you could see that other groups, two other groups would have the ability to completely choose. And that's what I'm giving you all. So Whitney selected poetry, or excuse me, a story or a poem, but I'm actually going to give you all full freedom. I'm not going to censor. I see what somebody put in the chat. I'm not going to censor what you do or say, but I'm going to give you some time. We are doing this in rapid prototype form, and I do want to make sure we have time for questions and to showcase some things at the end. So I'm going to do something that will feel super unfair, and that is I'm only going to give you 5 minutes. I would normally give you at least 10 just for this, and even in a rapid prototyping setting. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. You can choose whatever medium you wish to share out a creative solution to this problem. Ready? Oops, that's next. Every time I try and click this button, there we go. And no music to disturb you. 4.5 minutes left, you all. We'll gather in 1 minute. All righty, we have just a few minutes left. Maybe you saw it in the chat, but I have offered a challenge. I've offered a challenge to see who is willing to potentially take their solution public. Here's the deal. I actually would love to give you extended time. So 24 hours from now, I will be reviewing Twitter tomorrow, and whoever is willing to take on the challenge to share out their creative solution to the problem of censorship, just tag me or at Solve in Time, or both. Either one just ensures that I see it. I would love to be able to comment on some of the things that you all put out there. Love to be able to reshare, kind of promote your creativity. Here's what I'm also doing. I'm setting you up for in the future, if you utilize Solve in Time in your classrooms and there are some really creative things that are coming from your rooms, I'd love to be able to see them. I give this challenge regularly, and it has rarely been taken advantage of, but I tell educators all the time, set up a time with me. I will Zoom into your classroom. I would love if you want to have me just present to see the awesome and creative things that your students are doing. I want to be able to participate in that. If it's a Q&A with the designer of Solve in Time, I don't mind. Matter of fact, I want it. It's what keeps me going. So we actually don't have a ton of time for public share outs. But I do see a couple things have also already hit my direct messages. So I think I just figured out or remembered I can share some of those here. The Alju put that there. I love that. Bonnie just added something in the chat. Awesome. We have just a few minutes left. I am curious, what questions do you have? Or even comments?
Do you have these in Spanish or in Chinese, Dee?
So definitely in Spanish, and I rely upon volunteers. So people who have made translations for me. They are available on the website. If you look under the resources tab, you should see translations. Are you able to see the Solve in Time screen now, my website?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So under the resources, you should see translations, and Spanish, French, and Portuguese is what I currently have. Bonnie asked a question. How do you best help kids craft a compelling question to begin this process? Oh, goodness. Okay. So I'm always just thinking through the mental Rolodex of who, what, when, where, why, or how. So that's what I'm always working with. And to let you know, oftentimes, if we're dealing with a particular subject area, or maybe it's a unit of study, I told you I taught business, I'm asking the big question regularly. What is the real and relevant problem that could be solved after reading this, or after, engaging in whatever the content is? Maybe it's a film or something like that. That's when I start taking notes. I start asking the students questions. And I regularly see it as a goal to try and help them in their question asking ability. And so I'm always thinking, how do I help them think big questions, not closed questions, right? Where there's just a yes or no answer. And oftentimes that's just asking a who, what, when, where, why, or how. And before engaging in this process, the pre-work might be me just having a dialogue with the students and us talking through what are some of the problems, the real problems and the relevant problems that they see. And then we shore them up and then select them. And then maybe we'll just go through the process from there. I also see helping young engage in the process for all topics, and also related to censorship, noticing how others speak to us and how we speak to others about ourselves. I think that was Miss DeLu. I think she was sharing part of what her solution was. Here's another one. If I didn't share this earlier, I think I did already share that in the chat. Real quick, we're right at time. I definitely want to encourage you from the Solve in Time site to just explore, see what's there. There's a lot. So you're free to download. Printable response sheet is here. The add-ons of civil rights as well as negative feelings. They're the main cards. There's also an alternate version. There are dice that can be printed and constructed. So you can see all of those freebie resources, and there's also a PBL poster if you like. So those are free resources there. And then there's a whole lot more in terms of free resources. There are timers. You may notice I was using musical timers. There's a link to those. There are over 100 creativity apps that you can filter based on what type of device you're using. There's a whole meta resource on racial equity. If I even click there, we'll go way over time. So I'm going to spare you there. But if you would like to get in contact, there's lots of ways to do that, including click on the contact button or jump on this little speech bubble. You can engage in a direct chat with me and or sign up for the newsletter. My hope is to give you all educators enough resources to pull out the magnificence of your students. And if this is helpful in doing that, then I am happy. Whitney, you are getting your free cards. Thank you so much for your assistance. Again, I am going to tell Google to set a reminder for 24 hours from now for me to be checking Twitter, and I will be selecting a winner and giving a free deck of cards. And thank you all so much for your time, and have a fantastic rest of your digital day. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm getting the direct messages. I just want you to know I see them. Thank you. Great stuff. Maria, I see your question. If you want to stick around, I have a little bit of time. We can seek to answer that question. Oh, so wait, there's an easy answer, Maria. The easy answer is yes, you can contact me. You can always get in contact with me via Twitter. Also, here is my email address for everyone here if anyone wants to contact me. It's real simple. It's d@solveintime.com. Thank you all. Have a fantastic rest of your day.